um, the New York Giants quarterback
Tony DeVito, bro. That's
DeVito.
Illini. That's Illini guy.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's my dude, man.
That's so funny. Wasn't that awesome? They were in Jersey. They
Did you
they were
see? Did you see his? Have you seen his
yeah.
agent?
Uh-uh.
Oh, bro, you got to look it up. Google Tommy DeVito's agent
No
because
way.
it's gone viral. Like he looks like straight up mafia. He's got the fedora. He's got like the gold chain. Like he straight up looks mafia. They're embracing the dude. And yesterday before the game, they tailgated and they gave out like 300 cutlets and chicken cutlets and did all this Italian stuff, whatever. Like they're embracing it, bro. He's taking the world by storm.
That's so funny. What was I didn't even unfortunately I don't follow Illini football, but yeah, Vinny, for real, man. Like, is it really his cousin? Yeah, like, and my cousin Vinny. That's like Carmen. I think that's Carmen.
You're right.
There's no way Connor Brown is quoting Carmen. But what is the deal? What's the deal that they? What do they do? What's he do? Like his dad was doing it too. Like
this whatever. Like, and they've asked him to define it, and he's like, it's just it's just Italian,
it's that. Oh, the spaghetti like grandma used to make. Oh, like like that, right?
Right. Exactly.
But
Yeah, there's no definition.
Hold on. Did Connor just do the hand signal?
He did it.
How the heck did he do that?
Forget about it. That's a little bit what it is. Dan Thompson, a little forget about it.
Forget about it. We just scored a touchdown. Don't worry how we did it. We made it through the end zone. That's all.
Forget about it. And his dad, bro, like his dad is
right. That's what they was doing it. They were doing it in the stands, bro. They were, and he had. Did you see his dad? His dad's hair was like parted down the middle and feathered back on both sides.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing, man. It's amazing. I'll tell you this. So I was at the Illinois-Michigan game last year when Illinois got robbed at the big house.
Oh, yes.
Dude, we had them. It was ball game. And I was there. And honestly, dude, DeVito outplayed McCarthy easily.
Yeah.
I mean, way less weapons.
With less talent.
Way less weapons, not as good offensive line. Did have Chase Brown. But yeah, so I told the guy I was with, I told Justin Barton, I said, bro, I'm telling you right now, DeVito's a pro quarterback, bro. Like he's legit. The dude can play.
Yeah. Well, did you see the clips of his high school state tournament?
No, I didn't see that.
They played that during the game last night, and he dropped 3 dimes in high school. He dropped 3 dimes, like 40-yard passes, literally sideline, corner, end zone, corner of end zone. It's unbelievable.
That's awesome. No, I missed that. I was keeping an eye. I know this is like my sad existence, but I was keeping an eye on both games because it had implications for fantasy football playoffs. And Mostert from Miami scored 2 late touchdowns that got me the dub and got me into the fantasy playoffs.
Even though they lost, because it's players, it's not teams.
Players. Yeah. And it's stupid. I've had 3 quarterbacks go down with injury and whatever. I hate fantasy football, but it is what it is. Yeah. So, all right, let me do the share thing real quick here.
Yeah. Does Danny DeVito's the dude that does the subs, right?
Danny DeVito.
Doesn't he do Jersey Mike's?
He does. Yeah, he does something. He's the guy that was on, the little guy that was on Taxi. Can I say the little guy?
John Humble said he would naturally come up short. Danny.
I don't think we can say that.
What?
Have you seen that?
He's not. I don't mean he's a midget. That would. Have
you seen the pastor? Have you seen the?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The little guy,
The little guy in the back.
not the midget.
I'm talking about the midget. What? There's a midget sitting next to the little guy. He's like,
Oh,
he's
awesome.
like, for real. And they're back in the back, be like, little guys unite. That's why the
So-
midget's sitting. That's why the midget's sitting by the little guy.
Oh my goodness, that's right. Not the midget, the little
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
by the
that's
way,
really
folks.
good.
That's not us talking. That's not us
No.
talking.
It's a viral clip.
Yeah, it's a viral clip of a pastor basically eating his own shoe. He's
Oh
not a foot.
man,
It's not a foot in the mouth.
bro.
There's two viral pastoral clips. I think they eclipse all others.
They absolutely. You're not going to go there, right? I
Nope.
think we all know what we're talking about.
Yep.
With Church of Laugh, like it's made it a whole different ball game now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like those things kind of come and go. But back in the day, bro, those two,
Yeah.
especially the
Right.
one was like,
Yes. Yeah. The Nolan
dude,
Ryan one.
yes, I got you.
Yeah. Pitching aspirins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. That one is hilarious.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It does. They don't quite have the same Velcro because the cycles are faster. You know?
Yeah, it goes like so fast. Like I saw one, saw one yesterday, and it's awesome. The dude just starts going off, and he just starts screaming, "You're going to hell, and you're going to hell, and my wife's going to hell, and my kids are going to hell." And the drummer, they're playing the keyboard and the drums, and he's like, "And you're going to hell." And he said, "Stop playing those drums. You're going to hell." And grabs the drumsticks, and the guy on the keyboard starts going,
No.
yeah, it starts playing. And he's like, "Stop playing the keys. You're going to hell." It's awesome, man. Like back in the day, that one would have had a
Man.
cycle.
That would have been that'd have hung out in the social media zone for a month at least.
Dude.
Didn't have you made Church of Laugh?
I have not made Church of Laugh. I made another one that was vile.
Yeah.
It was absolutely
refer to
vile,
that
but I haven't made Church of Laugh. There's a couple that I probably should have, but
Yeah.
I
did. I made Church of Laugh.
You did. It's one of the all-time great clips, bro.
Has anybody in the audience today in our live studio audience, has anybody ever seen my video on Church of Laugh? It was yeah.
It's one of my favorite videos of all time, bro. Oh man.
Oh, Chewbacca.
Jay Hummel's trying to get me in trouble. He's trying to get me in trouble. Don't even go there, John.
No.
We're not going to go there with that one. But you got to see my brother's baptism video.
We'll leave that there.
The thing that throws it, that like makes it next level, that just goes into the next level, is the little Pat.
It was sweet old lady.
He taps her on top of the head. You got to go find it, y'all. I'm telling you got to go find it. It is one of the all-time classics. It's so good. It's so good. Oh man. All right. We ready to go?
Let's rock it. By the way, today's going to be good, y'all.
It's going to be a good conversation. You can tell we're a little fired up.
This is what Tracy Russell said. I want to see it. Tracy, you saw it in person.
She saw it live.
You saw it live. You just didn't maybe quite see it. Yeah.
I've got the video. I've got it saved, so I can go find it somewhere. Yeah, I've got it saved in my archive.
Oh man!
So I'm sure I could go dig that up. 100%.
Oh boy!
All right, ready to go?
Sure, Tracy Russell said, "Oh yes, I did." Exactly. That's stuff
unforgettable, man.
Yes, the things of lore.
No doubt. All right, here we go. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mobilized Church Podcast. This is Chris Dillingham alongside my big brother, Ken Dillingham Jr. the third on this beautiful December
Mm.
morning. It's a little crispy out there, as our chief meteorologist, Ken Bastarkey, lets us know. Currently 34 degrees, sunny high of 44 today.
Wow. It's so weird. I don't mind a cold, crispy cream day. Krispy Kreme would be if it snowed. That'd be the
Krispy
cream.
Kreme.
I don't mind a crispy day is as long as it's sunny.
Oh man, bro, I literally just told my wife that yesterday was just bleh. That
Yeah,
was the official meteorological term. It was just blah. And it
I
was
know.
cold and just gross. Today
Yeah,
it's crispy, but it's nice out because it's sunny. I can hang with that.
for real. That's what they say about. I was talking to someone from Denver, and they said, Denver is cold. I mean, obviously it's cold, but it's never cloudy. Just when it snows, and then they said it's
Interesting.
always sunshine.
Man, oh man. I had the honor of being out with my buddy Nelson Rivera out in
Mm,
Imperial Beach, California. And so he's been sending me weather comparison updates.
yeah,
So 31 degrees here, 72 and sunny in San Diego. In case you
I'm
were
gonna tell
wondering.
you. Here's the deal. You need to tell him. You need to tell him. Say, Nelly, look, my brother. I don't. He may not be a prophet, but he's been known to prophesy, and he actually mentioned live last week that there is a place called Nelsonville, Ohio, and
Yeah,
you keep getting lippy, and you get smart, and God will bring you.
gotta gotta
The
move you.
the Bible says he says, if you're humble, he will exalt you, but if you exalt
Mm,
yourself, you'll be
my
abased,
God.
and you just might end up in Nelsonville, Ohio, because it's your namesake.
And then I think FAC Toledo and Lifeway would have to co-op
Yeah.
to take over
Yeah, oh yeah.
Upper Room Imperial Beach and just make it one of our campuses. We
Bro,
just rotate.
what an upgrade for them.
We would
What an
That's
upgrade.
awesome.
That's man, Nelly, you better not let them even hear us talk about that, because that'll be a done deal before you even think about it.
No doubt, man. No doubt. I see Mark Condon on there. We love Mark Condon. We
Oh
could
my
even do
word.
we could even partner. We could partner with Infinite. Man, it'd be an amazing
Oh my
partnership, bro.
word. Let's go.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Oh man, Alan Smith says make him move to Illinois. Way worse. Well, he's not wrong, bro. He's not
For real.
wrong. The
Did
governor and oh
I, I
man.
know. You know what's really cool? I'm wondering, Mark says he moved. They just went into a building program, by the way. Let's plug it. Let's just
Yeah,
go ahead and plug it. They built
plug it.
they they raised I don't know, they raised something like $150 million last building program or whatever, and they paid cash and vacations for life for the Mark and Kara. I'm joking,
Uh,
folks. I'm joking.
right,
But anyway,
right.
no, for real. Like they raised the money, and they debt free church plant and whatever, and they moved that in the process. That was their move,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
moved from Gehenna,
My God.
and I think they're in New Albany now. And Mark claims that it was the Lord, but I mean, if you're in Gehenna,
Man, planting a
would
church in Gehenna.
wouldn't you move?
It's like we were talking the other day about Hell, Michigan. Can you imagine
Wow.
planting a church in Hell, Michigan? I wonder if there's an apostolic church. We've got some Michiganders on here. Maybe they could share with us. Is there a church in Hell, Michigan?
There is a Hell, Michigan.
Yeah.
Hell. Wow. People would probably move there for some job situation or whatever. Jay Jones says, hell, there is a hell. Yes, there is a Hell, Michigan. That's awesome. Um, You know what people will probably, I said, hell, yes, there is a hell, Michigan. People, they will clip that. I'll be on Church of Laugh for saying hell, yes, but they'll put it together. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, the good news is the population of hell is only 72.
See, part of the reason.
So pulling them out of hell, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pulling them out of hell.
But
Oh, that's
hey,
amazing.
Mark Condon, I
Yeah, yeah,
mean,
yeah.
he planted a church and raised up a great church right there in Gehenna, which is the biblical. Gehenna was the biblical, it's the living word picture for the lake of fire.
Interesting. So I wonder when the founding fathers of that city were like, "Hey, what's a good name for our city?" Like, what kind of moron said Gehenna?
You
Like,
know,
dude, or hell, like what? What are you doing? Jay says
yeah.
there's a Paradise, Michigan too. I don't know about that. There might be, but
Here, my
there
thing is,
there there,
so
there are some great places in Michigan.
for real,
I don't want to offend all of our Michigan listeners, but Paradise, eh, I don't know
the
about that.
storming the gates of Gehenna. Yeah, that it was. Now, to be fair, it
Yes.
is Gahana. It's Gah. If you're from Hell, Michigan, it's Gehenna. It's Gehenna. But
We just offended
right.
everybody today.
I know. That's so awesome. Anyway, what are we talking about?
So
What
yeah,
is
so we had a great conversation. We've had some interesting pre-show discussions. We had a discussion about Tommy Cutlets,
oh
the
buddy.
Illinois quarterback, Tommy DeVito taking the world by storm. Tommy Cutlets, forget
Oh
about it. Forget
man.
about it. So we've spanned the conversation today, but we got a good discussion, Ken. This is going to be a good one.
It
Spread the
is.
word,
It is.
peeps. Spread the word.
We're
This is going to be
actually
a good
going
one.
to we're gonna do what we do best. All right, guys.
What is that? What is
Thanks for being with us today.
what is it that we do best again? I can't remember. Oh man. What
We're
we're
gonna
what we do
intertwine
best?
sports talk with discipleship, man.
Ah, yes. And what we do best, I think, is just like flipping the switch, like going from this straight into a discussion. So,
Yeah,
yeah. So are you ready to go? You think we're ready?
I am. I do think Anthony Richard has a great point though. We need a big church plant push. You know,
Oh
Hell,
man,
Michigan. That
my
would be
God,
so cool, man.
my God. I think it's ripe for revival, as they say
Can you
in
imagine?
Hell, Michigan.
Let's take hell for Jesus. People be
We're
like,
gonna do
"What?"
we're, we're gonna do a master rally in Hell. My
Ah,
God. Come on, somebody. Youth on missions to
yay!
hell, Michigan.
Yeah, you were scared, but you forgot about the 3 Hebrew boys. Don't even need an asbestos suit when you got the 4th man in the fire. Yeah,
We need the organ. We need the Hammond with the 3B, B3, I mean, on there.
yeah,
Remember
that's
that app
right.
we used to have, that Hammond with the B3
Yeah,
app? That's
yeah,
what we need
yeah,
we need on this, bro.
for real.
All right, let's get rolling. Let's get going.
Yeah, let's do
We've, as they say, wasted more time than necessary. So let's get rolling on this one.
it.
So we do have a good conversation today,
Uh-huh.
and so one of the most important things we talk about is disciplability,
Mhm.
right? And it's funny because uh, I was typing something the other day, and somebody's like, "That's not even a real word." I'm like, "Well, it is a real word because we made it a word." So disciplability, right?
Yeah.
And
No
we've
words
talked a
were
little.
real words until people started using them.
We're going to make it a real word.
Right.
And so, disciplability is how much is a person willing to let Jesus change what they care about, right?
Mm.
And so that's kind of the foundation of what we talk about with discipleship. Is a person willing to let Jesus? They could be as far away from
Right.
God as possible. Like they could be living in Hell, Michigan.
Yes. And they went, I want out of hell. And Jesus
He
said,
was
"I got you,
following.
bro." You know?
Pull you out, man. Pull you out of the pit.
Right.
And so a person's just willing to let Jesus change what they care about. And so one of the things that we talk about, of course, is like a person can be disciplable until they're not. They can be disciplable in some places, but not
Mhm.
all places.
So
So
true.
today we want to talk about something, Ken, that you and I were talking, and you made this point, and it really is true. Something's not really been explored a whole lot,
Yeah.
and that is that there are barriers
Mhm.
to disciplability
Yeah.
that so sometimes we just look kind of at the linear view. Either you are disciplable or you're not disciplable,
Right.
right?
Yep.
But as disciple makers, one of the things we have to do is we have to help people to identify, like, what are some of the barriers that are preventing you or preventing people from being disciplable, and
Mhm.
then going to some of those barriers and trying to help people work through that, so that people that maybe are not disciplable in an area or in all areas
Mhm.
can begin to move towards disciplability. How do we overcome those barriers and that kind of stuff? So I'm gonna throw it to you, kind of let you launch it today, and we'll go from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, as you're talking about disciplability either being like sort of like a, you know, like ones and zeros,
Yeah,
the on or off, it's, computer language. And so we think of it as either, it's either on or off. You're either willing to let Jesus change what you care about or you're not. And like you said, I think, to understand the nuance of that there are layers that, the outside layer of an individual might be the place where they have sensed and felt the most pain. There, they may have gone through you know, a, a, a a difficult season in their life, a job loss or a marital, um, a marital, like a divorce or,
sure.
some marital
Like a
strife or
breakup or
whatever,
something.
breakup.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so, as you mentioned, just so that everybody listening could kind of nuance this idea that or understand that it's like, you know, being willing to let Jesus change what you care about means kind of in a way letting Jesus have that thing. Let him take that from your life. Let him, do something with that. Let him work his work in you and with you and so on. Well, in areas where we're 100% aware that we're either weak or we're aware that we're broken or we're aware that we're empty or whatever. So those are the things that a lot of times create sort of that first access point. You
sure.
know, in the Bible, I think the lepers were way more aware that they needed a Messiah than the Pharisees.
Right.
Jesus said it. The whole don't have the need of a physician. So I think that's, Jesus is identifying, but which by the way, it was funny because basically Jesus was saying, he wasn't calling them whole. He was just simply saying, you think you're whole,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
and so but what happens is people who know they're not healthy know that they have need for a physician. People who are sick, people who are broken, they know they are, and so they were the first people that accepted Jesus's messiahship, particularly when he had the power to do something about their to heal their body, to take care of their leprosy, to speak to that inner place of turmoil, like the woman at the well. And so, but eventually what happens is people get to a point where, there are other issues in their life that he needs to be Lord of. And there are other things he needs to heal that are maybe a layer, 2 layers, 3 layers deeper. And eventually, people get to those spots and they're like, wait. I mean, that's fine. Jesus healed my leprosy and whatever, but you're telling me now that he wants to rule my life. I wanted a Messiah so that leprosy didn't rule my life. I don't, and so there's
Yeah.
these, so I think that's the kind of thing that is important for us to understand as we talk about, you know, even a person who may not recognize their need, or they may not feel like that it's been presented to them yet that Jesus is really the answer to their need. Or maybe the spiritual conversation in the past has been, to administer a prescriptive um a prescriptive to diagnose the situation and give them the prescriptive response that doesn't give them the ability to understand. I don't even know how that's the answer.
Yeah.
Even a doctor will sit down with a person and say, look, we got this new technology and it's a new way to address the situation that you've got. And they'll explain what it does and why and so on and so forth so that the patient can say, yeah, I think that's a good decision. Let's make that decision together. If the doctor just says, hey, do you mind if I experiment on you a little bit? A person
Right.
be like, no,
Right.
right? Regardless of how desperate they are to be healed or made well. So Chris, I think that this idea of barriers to disciplability have there's a lot of different directions we could go, but ultimately I think it relates down to that singular point of of a person recognizing, realizing, and then sort of acquiescing to uh, letting Jesus be the answer in their life. And in fact, maybe you could take it to Patrick Mahomes' direction here and freak some people out. That we're literally going to use Patrick Mahomes as our launching point, as an example of this very fact.
I'll let you do that. That's
Are you
your
serious?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was your thing. I don't look, I'm not above stealing a sermon thought, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I'm as a matter of fact, Chad Douglas was here for our leadership, and he's like, can't remember how he worded it, but he's like, leaders are unique, but great leaders borrow or steal or whatever from people. Like, there's nothing new, so
Right.
whatever. So I'm not above
Sure.
borrowing a sermon thought, and I've preached plenty of your sermon thoughts. People can always tell. They're like, "Yeah, I don't think he's that smart. There's no way he came up with that on his own." So,
So
so I'm gonna
crazy.
let you. I'm gonna let you do the Patrick Mahomes thing. But I do think this is an important conversation because
Yeah.
because it can become very easy for us looking at it from kind of the two angles, right? Personally as a disciple, and then as a disciple maker, it can be
Uh-huh.
easy to look at people and I don't want to say like evangelism, the whole evangelism conversation. When I say evangelism, I'm talking about kind of the old view, the old mindset of what evangelism looks like.
Right.
And evangelism was pretty cold. It was pretty much you're in or you're out. You're ready to
Right.
get baptized or you're not, right?
Right. Right. Right.
And so sometimes with discipleship, you can kind of start to kind of go down that same track when you say, well, this person's not disciplable. Now, one of the things I love about disciple making and understanding these principles and concepts is, a person might not be disciplable today, but in discipleship, there's the long game because we know life is going to bring them pain. We know
Yeah.
we're going to saturate them with prayer, and the Spirit of God is going to put the hook on them, and He's going to do His thing to draw them in. And
Hmm.
so there's all of these components. So in the moment, it might not look like anything's happening or they're disciplable, but God can begin to work on them. But as disciple makers, sometimes it can be really easy to just dismiss and say, well, they're not
Right.
disciplable. And I think one of the things we have to do is start looking at it and saying, okay, what are some things in their life that are hindering them from being decided? What are these barriers because I think that's important, Ken. I love this conversation because I think that's really important in spiritual conversations of bringing tension into those places,
Yeah.
you know, and not trying to resolve it for them, but bringing them to a place of tension where they can start identifying. Because sometimes people have barriers, they don't even know that they're there. And so
So
they
true.
don't know how to work through them and whatever. So I think this is a really important conversation for personally as a
Yeah.
disciple. Like
Yeah.
what are some barriers that I have, some experiences or some worldviews that I have, or the way that I process things, whatever, that are hindering me from becoming more like Jesus.
Hmm.
And how do I deal with people that they may not even be aware of what those barriers are?
Mm. Man, that's it. That's so for us, which is funny because we always make the statement, to make disciples, we first have to be disciples. And I
Yeah.
think this ability for us to see barriers to our own disciplability are things that eventually cause us to understand, to appreciate those, to use the word again, nuances,
Sure.
those things that aren't always so cut and dry. The on off thing could be, like what's going on. I flip the light switch on and off. I've done it, 5,000 times.
Yeah.
And today I flipped it and it didn't work. Well, there could be a lot of reasons it didn't work. Like it could
Sure.
be your light is burnt out. It could be your light fixture is burnt out. It may have fluorescent lights and it might be the ballast has gone out. It might be
You didn't pay your light bill,
exactly that you might be
right?
having. There may be a transformer went out. The
Yeah.
electric's off. It could be that a mouse got through in the wall in the night and chewed through the wire. And like there's a lot of reasons why, it's not working now.
Sure.
And humans are obviously far more dynamic than just on and off and whatever. There's multiple layers and other things affect it. And that's a deeper conversation of, sort of a soul level conversation beyond what we're at today. So, I think the example, a great example is for anybody who watched the Kansas City Chiefs get beat on Sunday, know that
And I'm
there
so ready for
was,
this. I'm so ready for this conversation.
yeah, man,
This is gonna be
there,
awesome.
there was such a, well, and here's the thing. I think it became such a big deal because it was so uncharacteristic. And that
Sure.
was Patrick Mahomes' response to the offsides call or lined up in the neutral zone, which is ultimately an offsides. Um, it was, it's a, it was an uncharacteristic response. He's usually pretty cool. He usually doesn't lose his cool, but, look, my man lost it.
He lost his mind.
He lost his ever loving mind. I mean, literally, he was in the mode of, my pastor used to say it like this. He said, if he could ever chew through a nail, he could have chewed through a nail that day or bit
That's
through a nail.
awesome.
And
He looked like me,
yeah,
my old IBC tournament days back when I was at IBC, like
yeah,
just
yeah,
flipping chairs and
for real. And he's got the hair, that can, you take a helmet off and it could be like, wow, it could look pretty wild. And so he is just flat. He's going nuts, man.
he was going crazy.
And at first, here's what's so crazy. At first, when he was going crazy, I thought he was yelling at, what's his name? Tony. What's his first name? DeAndre Tony, or is it?
Oh yeah, the receiver,
Yeah, number 19. Somebody,
something like that.
somebody in our studio audience may know you. But he, I thought he was yelling at him at first. Like I
Yeah,
thought he was like you idiot, like, we're gonna lose the game because of you. I thought, or maybe, maybe he had mouthed off something back to him, or they'd had a little, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
but then Kadarius, yeah, and man, which by the way, put that on your list of names if you're expecting a baby.
Right.
But here we are. I mean, he wasn't yelling at Kadarius Tony. He was freaking out at the sideline ump, and man, they were holding him back, and he was yelling, and it didn't stop there.
Yeah.
It was so crazy. Which, by the way, Buffalo quarterback,
Josh Allen.
yeah, Josh Allen, he comes out to meet him, and he's telling him, like, bro, they don't call that, bro. You know that. And Josh Allen just patted him on the chest, and just kept on walking. Like, I know, bro. I know.
Yeah, but we got the
Sucks sometimes.
dub.
Sucks sometimes.
We got the dub.
Yeah. And so what happens is, though, what's crazy about the whole deal is it doesn't even stop there. It goes into the press conference after the game, and which, they're going to get fined big time. They basically said reffing has stunk this year, and this is the pinnacle of the stink.
Mm.
And like, I mean, they basically just threw the whole NFL and like I know the NFL don't want to see this. I know the NFL doesn't want to see stupid umpire or ref calls deciding games and blah blah blah. And then it doesn't stop there, bro.
Yeah,
Mrs. Mahomes.
she did. She did.
Mrs. Mahomes comes out and she single-handedly gives the MVP trophy to the refs.
The refs, yeah. And it was a great play. That's the thing, dude. Like, it was an
It's all.
unbelievable play.
By the way, I got to
Travis
ask you,
Kelce.
was
Yeah.
that a called play or was Kelsey just was he going on? Was he just vamping or what was he doing there? Was
I
that a
don't think
called
it was
play?
there's no way that you can run into the like, the old hook and lateral. Like, there wasn't that. That's a different play. I mean, to call a play where you're gonna catch the ball, run to the middle, and then throw it backwards to a guy on the sideline, I just don't see that happening. If it was, it's a genius play. Plus, Nagy's the offensive coordinator, former Bears coach. There's no way he's that creative to call that play. That'd have been an Andy. That would have been an Andy Reid call.
Yeah.
But man, there's that's a if they did, it's one of the greatest play calls of all times.
So you think Connor Brown said, "Don't underestimate Andy Reid."
That is true. It could have been Andy Reid. It definitely could have been, but
For
I don't
real.
know.
I mean, Andy Reid be like, hey, Travis, we've been doing them State Farm commercials and they keep making Mahomes the most valuable bundler. Let's do a bundle play.
He was. I think Kelsey was just showing out for Taylor Swift in the stands. I think that's what was going on. He was just
he,
showing out.
he he dabbed toward her. And who knows? Yeah, but I mean, yeah. That's so. I think like here's the thing. At the end of the day, we are golly, man. So here it is. All right. After everything calms down, okay, dude was offsides.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Right.
I mean, they showed it. They've shown it. The guy that gets on and does the, whatever the ref that was the head of the, he'd been the head of all these different, uh, the union, the refs union and whatever. He's like, look, I mean, I know that they haven't called it. It was only called 6 times last year, but they've called it this year a lot more. And they put them on notice and they're going to be calling it and blah, 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 blah. And, and he's basically like, look, at the end of the day, I mean, I get the frustration, but he was
Dude was
offsides.
offsides.
That's it.
Bottom line, dude was offsides. What are you gonna do?
100%. 100%. I mean, his foot was at the ball and his head was way beyond it. And so, yeah, I mean,
If they don't call it and Kansas City wins on that play, Buffalo's gonna be screaming. Josh Allen's gonna be throwing his helmet and going crazy like dude
right.
was offsides. How are you not gonna call that?
And then they're going to go back and go, yeah, see, there's how it is because of the
Mhm.
Super Bowl play that basically
Mhm.
was,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep. Chiefs, Mahomes, they want them in the Super Bowl. They want them winning. So they're gonna
uh-huh.
like they want Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and like all that. So yeah, absolutely. Dude was offsides. That's the bottom line. It's the rule.
That's it.
It's
Bottom
the
line.
rule.
That's it. So here's the crazy thing though. So when we, I think, wow, look at this. Pastor Tony Richards said a guy from ESPN watched every Chiefs play and Tony was lined up offside 4 times during the game. That's the only time the ref called it. And, like, okay, so I gave it to you 4 times in a row. So now, whatever. And, like, and so here's the deal. So Tony Richards' statement can go both directions there. It could go both directions, be like, why did you choose to call it now? Or you could go the direction to say, look, God could have let you get by with that sin, or God could let you get by with that thing, and you're not really getting by with it, but God's giving you the chance to repent from it. God's giving you the chance, and then all of a sudden, he calls you on it because he says, look, we're going to have to deal with this because you're not repenting on your own. And I'm just saying, barriers to disciplability, barriers to becoming like Jesus
Yeah.
could literally be like this very scenario where Patrick Mahomes cannot deny that the guy was offsides.
Yeah.
He can't deny it. It was clear to everybody with eyeballs that work.
Yeah.
He was offsides.
Yeah.
But the reality was that wasn't the point he was making. The point that he was making was that it's never been called against us before, and you choose to call it then, where the
Yeah.
game's on the line. Okay, well, guess what? Like it is what it is. It's in the rule book, and maybe what happens is it's coming down to the end of the game, and the ref, and they're going to be more focused on it, whatever. But here's the deal: at the end of the day, right? Here's the thing: Mahomes, in many ways, represents people who get to the point that you're not even able to talk about the actual thing. Okay,
Hmm.
okay, okay, all right, I get it, I get it, I get it. But here's the deal: was he offside? I know, but and so sometimes barriers to disciplability are things that exist in us that don't allow us to either acknowledge or even have the discussion about things in us that really aren't like Jesus and really do need to change.
Man, that's so good. That's so good. And you bring up such a great point. So like the emotional component, like sports sometimes are a great analogy. In life, it's like this microcosm of some life experiences, whatever. I think one of the things, like you're talking about there, what was it about Mahomes in that situation was if you separate the emotion, right? I think
Mhm,
Mahomes would be like, yes, I agree. I mean, I understand it's a rule. Like, okay, if you had a play and there
mhm.
was like
If
a
it wasn't him,
right, right. If it wasn't him, or there was a play where there's a bang bang pass interference call or whatever, like that those things happen. Those things are normal, but he becomes so hyper emotional about the situation. Obviously, we know there's a lot on the line. We understand that, but here's the deal. Okay, here's the thing. That wasn't the end of the game.
it's true.
Like it wasn't over. They still had a chance
Right.
and they didn't get the first down, they didn't score the points that they needed to
Yeah.
and whatever. So the thing is, like, sometimes you can get so emotional about
Mm,
things and so
mhm.
almost myopic.
Yeah, focused off to the other. You get so focused on that thing that you don't realize, okay, stop. You got another chance.
Bro,
It
that's the
ruined it though.
right, you become so myopic, you can't see anything else, you can't and I mean, that's a champion has to do that. We've always said, being coach or being having a dad that's a coach
Yeah.
has ingrained in us. We always knew going on the road, you better be 5 to 10 points better than the home team
Yep.
because they're gonna get the calls. I mean, that's just
Yep.
the bottom line.
Yep.
And so a lot of times what happens is my point is a lot of times people get so emotional about certain things and in reality it's not the end, it's not the most important thing. Yes, it's a big deal, it's a big situation, but they become so emotional that
Yep.
you can't even have a conversation. You can't address those things. And like, I wonder if you could have a conversation with Mahomes today, if you could be like, look, if you could redo that, what would you do differently? Right?
Right.
Maybe hit the pause button, like, "Man, look, hey, it is what it is. Look, we gotta regroup. Let's figure this out. Let's do it. Let's go forward." Um, so I think one of the biggest barriers, Ken, to disciplability is
Right.
that emotional defense that I'm gonna dig in that I'm right.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
I'm gonna dig in. I don't want to change my opinion. I don't want to change what I believe. I don't want to change this place. And so they start digging in emotionally. So the question is, how do we deal with that? How do we deal with somebody who is emotionally attached to a position that's hindering their ability to be disciplable?
Man, bro, that's the thing. I think, honestly, the hardest part to all of it is just is our predisposition to self-justification, our
Mhm.
predisposition um to uh self righteousness, that it's almost impossible. Like, sin corrupts us to a point that we almost can't admit we're wrong.
Mhm.
um I think, it's funny because this is part of, I think, what Jesus is talking about when he says, you're trying to pick out the splinter in your brother's eye, but you don't realize basically he calls it a log. uh
Yeah.
this he said you've got something that's completely blocking your vision, and you're trying to remove the splinter out of your brother's eye. That ultimately, the issue's with you. I mean, that's what Jesus is saying at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
The issue is with you. And I think think about people that don't want the issue to be with them. Like, think
Sure.
about people that don't want to accept responsibility. Think about
Blaming.
people that it's right. The very first thing that happens, the very first interaction with Adam and Eve, is
Yeah.
essentially they start blaming. Adam basically Adam blames two people.
Mhm.
Adam blames Eve and God.
Mhm.
The
You gave her to
woman
me.
you gave me.
Yeah, you
She
made her.
deceived me. Or she didn't deceive me. She gave it to me and I ate.
Right.
Eve says, the serpent you made
Mhm.
gave it to me. He deceived me and I ate it.
Yeah.
And it's so the crazy thing about it is that sin basically shifts our capacity, and we see it like happen in like 2 nanoseconds in the
Yeah.
hearts and minds of Adam and Eve when they're blinded now, and blinded by their own brokenness and weakness. All of a sudden, here they are. It's not my fault. If you wouldn't have given me the dumb woman, I wasn't my idea in the first place.
Right.
You
Sure.
said it's not
Sure.
good that man should be alone, and you gave me the woman, and now here we are, you know?
Right.
And it's so crazy because I think that's, I had a situation. This is crazy. I had a situation probably 10 years ago as as a pastor. I had a
Okay.
situation, and somebody came to me and they basically said, so and so, this happened, and so and so didn't say anything, didn't help. Nobody in the church came to me. Nobody in the church helped me. Nobody in the church said anything. Nobody in the church came to pray for me. On and on and on. I said, okay. And so I thought about it and I prayed about it and I said, you know what? I agree. People should have, come to us and whatever.
Yeah.
And or come to you. And I said, I went back to the person later and I asked him. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, have you ever seen anybody in the church in need? Have you ever seen anybody in the church struggling? Have you ever seen anybody in the church hurting? Yeah. I said, have you ever not done anything? Have you ever not given an encouraging word, not asked a person that they haven't been to, they haven't shown up at the gathering, the Sunday gathering of, where the believers gather. You haven't seen them in 3 weeks and
Right.
you didn't call them, you didn't text them, whatever. Have you ever done that? Well, yeah. I said, okay, here's the deal. I said, now I'm telling you right now. I said, I think this is something that needs to be addressed, and I'm going to address it, and I'm going to address it in a message. And I preached a message, and I said, and they agreed. They're like, yeah, you're right. And here's what I said: that I said, we often expect the highest level of performance out of others. We
Sure.
we hold others to the highest standard,
Man,
but
it's
we
so
give
true.
ourselves the most grace. We
So
hold
true.
right? We hold others to the highest standard, but we extend to ourselves the most grace. And the Jesus model is the exact opposite of that. The
Yeah.
Jesus model is I expect the most out of myself and I extend the highest grace. Why do we do that? Well, because you don't know what I've been going through. You don't know what I've been battling. You don't know what I've been up against lately. When
Right.
we try to get people to come face to face with their own disciplability issues, what do they start doing? Well, you don't know what it's been like for me lately. You don't know what I've been going through. You don't know what my home life's been like. You don't know what's been going on with me and my wife. You don't know. And you know what? And it's probably true. And sometimes learning the stories of others helps us give grace. But at the end of the day, we have sort of just this preclusion in us. We're just sort of hardwired to expect the highest standard from others and give the most grace to ourselves.
Man, and what a great example you just gave there, right? Stories tell the story. So what a great example you just gave there about helping somebody who there was an emotional response, which many times the greatest hindrance to disciplability is when we respond out of emotion, because usually that's kind of the place. I'm going to use the word carnality. We understand what I'm talking about when I say that. Like it's not a spiritual position. Like
Right.
it's we're rationalizing it in our own thinking and whatever, and so we respond emotionally. But what a great example about how to walk somebody through in a way. Our tendency sometimes, bro, especially in the world we live in, our
Uh-huh.
tendency. I don't want to sound like grumpy old man, but sometimes our tendency in the current world we live in is to coddle that.
Yeah.
You're right. You know what, man? I don't know why somebody did, like I can't believe they wouldn't do that. And the dangerous thing about that is it starts to reinforce those positions and
Mhm.
opinions. And now we talk about spiritual strongholds, and I think we've missed the boat so much on spiritual warfare and spiritual strongholds and whatever strongholds that are mentioned in Scripture when he says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal but mighty through God to pulling down of strongholds. And then he goes in to elaborate what those are, and all of them have to do with thoughts, your thought
Mhm.
life, your thinking, your mind, right? Every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Christ, like bring every thought into captivity. All of this, it has to do with things that are happening in the mind. And if we don't take people to that place, what you did was you acknowledged the hurt in the situation, right? So they're being heard. We understand that.
Yeah.
But then you took them to a place that said, yeah, but what is the Jesus approach? What's the
Right.
Jesus view? How does he look at these kinds of things? What, right?
Right.
And so instead of coddling and reinforcing
Yeah.
something that would become a hindrance to their disciplability, you took them to the kingdom value and basically gave them the choice. You can either continue to hold your position and dig in, or you can make a decision that says, no, you know what? You're right. I want to be like I want to be like Jesus, and
Yeah.
I'm going to let him work on this place in my life that I know needs to change. Now that
Yeah.
means they're disciplable, right? Thankfully, in that moment they were disciplable. That doesn't
Mhm.
always happen that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will be like, "No, no, that's you don't understand." Like you said, you don't understand what I'm going
Yeah.
through. You don't understand this. You don't
Yeah.
understand that. This is the way it always is and whatever.
Mhm.
But what we believe is when people get confronted in a way that's not confrontational,
Yeah.
right? So we're confronting, but we're not being confrontational. We're just confronting them with like, here's the kingdom value. You give people the opportunity to choose. What I believe is, I believe that even if they don't immediately respond, the Spirit of God will go to work. It's going to be in them, and then God gives them the ability to make the choice of whether or not they're not going to conform to the kingdom value or whether they're going to stick in their position. So it's a beautiful example
Mhm.
about how to help people overcome, because one of the hardest things is that emotional thing, because they can't think logically when they're thinking emotionally.
Man. See, and that's the thing where, there's a lot of conversation going on today in our world. There's a lot of, oh man, I don't want to just casually, there's a, it's becoming vogue, I guess. And I don't know, maybe there's always been an element of it. And I believe that there's goodness in human experience. there's plenty of opportunity and reason for us to, maybe point out the faults and failures of others, and some of them
Sure.
are legitimate, right? Like
Sure.
some
Yeah.
people some people do get steamrolled, some people do get hurt, some people do experience, sometimes the church wasn't what the church should be.
Absolutely.
But the response can't be, like you said, to coddle it in such a way that it reinforces this feeling or sense. See, because what I wasn't trying to do was I wasn't trying to justify the church.
I was
I
getting ready to
admitted,
say, you weren't that's the thing, bro. That's a great point. You didn't defend something that was maybe a flaw in the
right,
church, right?
right. We
Which
need to,
could be a disciplability issue in us. Like, I
yeah,
want to defend. No, no, you're no. Come on, stop it. Don't. That's not what the church is. That's not what the. It's a minor thing. Most people aren't like that. Like, go into defense mode. You would have just pushed her away, reinforced it, right?
yeah. And it was in this situation, it was basically what I was doing was I was saying, yeah, I think that's a problem. That's a
Yeah,
problem if we're not, relationally connected enough to know when our brothers and sisters are hurting. It
yeah,
is a problem when we have a culture. I had a guy, mention to me recently that said, you know, we did a Christmas program and it was unbelievably powerful. It was called, Stories That Tell the Story.
yeah,
And we basically what we did was we mirrored there were Tim and Jessica Krause basically wrote the entire script. I mean, it was better than group VBS I mean, it was unbelievable.
yeah.
And it mirrored our stories, real stories from us with biblical stories.
It's
And
awesome.
then it was just so powerful, impactful. And so, obviously because it was so impactful, I had somebody say, well, we need to do testimony services again. Why don't we? Man, this just proves why we shouldn't have ever stopped doing testimony service and whatever. And I just responded to the person and said, look, I agree, but here's the problem. The problem, let's identify something here. You know, people in the church didn't even know my testimony. Well, all right, let's talk about that. The problem is then that the only relationship, if the only relationship that church people have or is the relationship that they have in the encounter on a Sunday or Wednesday night sitting in the same room with other believers,
Yeah,
then the answer is well, then we need to create a programmatic institutional response where the stories are being told in the format of the shallowness of non-relationship. It's
yeah,
still the shallowness of non-relationship, but we create a programmatic response where we're gonna have a testimony service where people hear
yeah,
each other's stories. I said number one, so you've highlighted an issue. Do we have the depth of relationship, and are we creating a culture of relationship where we're cultivating sharing and hearing the stories of each other because we have true biblical fellowship? Number
yeah,
one. Number
yeah.
two, how many people have you told your story outside of church people? Because I'm no offense, but church people know Jesus is powerful. Church
Sure.
people know Jesus reaches down. Have you told your story to people who don't know Jesus? Because
Yeah,
they're the ones who need to hear the stories.
yeah,
And then I said, Now, okay, now look, how do you think maybe we could take the example and use this to create?" In fact, one of our ministers even texted and said, "Dude, could you imagine if I had my video testimony, a 3 to 5 minute story on my phone, if I encountered somebody and said, 'Hey, you mind if I send you a video? Can I just send you a quick video and like airdrop on the video or whatever and say, watch this. This is my story.'"
yeah,
And like to have like a almost like a old school, used to reach in your pocket or your billfold or whatever and give them a tract or something or whatever. But
right.
but but here's the deal, Chris. This is the point. Going back to this whole topic is it's it's comes back to me. The
Mhm.
person in this disciplability situation, what I was saying was, yeah, the church stinks, or we need to do a better job at that. And no, have you ever been a part of the problem?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the question. Have you ever been a part of the problem? And
Yeah.
the barriers to disciplability sometimes are not recognizing, because that's to have a disciplable culture is to say, sometimes that whole idea of saying, I'm the one right now in the position of need. Okay. So have you ever been a person who didn't meet the need? And thankfully, like you said, this individual responds back like, yeah, I've been part of the problem myself. Okay, so how can we be better? Not to say, church hurt, oh, the church, and I think this is, and it's becoming vogue to be like, church hurt. And it's hard to even discuss it because as a pastor and a leader of a church, people could just be dismissive and say, yeah, see, you're a pastor. You'd explain it away. Sure. You would explain it away. No, 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 I'm not explaining away. What I'm
Right.
saying is, what I'm saying is, okay, let's go ahead and accept that what happened hurt you, or let's go ahead and accept whatever. Let's talk about that. Now, let's talk about how that currently is becoming an excuse, which is a barrier to disciplability.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
reason for you to say, see, this is why I won't go back to church. This is why I won't, whatever, whatever. And it's like, look, at the end of the day, it's between you and Jesus. And I don't care if it's church hurt. If you let it get between you and Jesus, you're letting something that Jesus said shouldn't separate you from the love of God separate you from the love of God.
Absolutely. Man, it's so good. So good. Man, the time got away from us today, Ken.
I
I'm looking at the clock already. We didn't even get to the 4 types of soil, which I think are great, uh, kind of an analogy for what we're talking about today. The different things, the road, the seed that falls on the side of the road,
Yeah.
and the enemy comes in and snatches it away. Right?
Oof.
There's obviously a spiritual component uh, to this piece. You've got rocky soil. Jesus
Yeah.
explains this when oppression and persecution comes. You got thorny soil when the cares of this world. So like he's giving us the things that can be a hindrance, right? You don't have
Yeah.
depth on the
Yeah.
side of the road that allows you to be good soil to produce fruit, or you are thorny ground that oppression and hardship just makes it difficult. Here's the deal.
Yeah.
One of the great things years ago, I heard a preacher talking. He was talking about conversation with on a trip to Israel, and they were there was a crop that was planted, some type of crop planted on like this side of this hill, and it was like steep hill, and there's a lot of rocks and whatever. And he asked the farmer about it, and the farmer said, Americans are funny because if it's not like perfect soil for them, like they don't understand it. He's like, here's the deal. There are just some soils you've just got to work harder to produce fruit, right?
Wow.
You've got to dig deeper and work on those things. And I think for us as disciple makers, I think it's important. Sometimes we dismiss people as not disciplable when we don't realize that the issue is there are these barriers that we're talking about here, and we don't just dismiss people because we say, well, they're not disciplable, so forget them. We're gonna forget about them.
Wow.
No, we're gonna help try to understand what is it out of the 4 soils. What is the the 3 that are not producing fruit? Maybe what's an area in their life that is hindering that from happening, and how do I help them to become self-aware of that so I can lead them through this process of letting Jesus work on them? And I
Mhm.
believe, here's what I believe, Ken. I believe that the undisciplable can become disciplable,
Man, that's it. There it is right there.
right?
That's
And
it right
so
there.
so a lot of times when it comes to disciple making, we want the people that are like they're they're right. They're ready to go right now. The good soil. We want the good soil every time. But three-fourths of the soil is going to require extra labor, extra work to produce fruit. So
Mhm. Uh-huh.
so understanding that there are people that we're going to come in contact with that have had horrific life experiences. We're going to come in contact with people that have had bad church experiences.
Uh-huh.
We're going to have people that have no current awareness in their life that they even need God.
That's so true, dude.
Right? So
So
there's so
true.
many things. Those are all barriers to disciplability. How many people do we come in contact with? Like okay, um, pickleball is all the craze,
Uh-huh.
right?
Right.
Ken, how many times do you think about pickleball a day?
Well, this is the first time today.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I don't play pickleball. I don't
Right.
think about pickleball, but
Right.
people that play it think about it, talk about it, they're involved in it all the time, whatever. Okay? And kind of their world revolves around that. Sometimes we think that people are sitting around thinking about God, thinking about these kinds of things, but as
Man.
you and I can look at it and relate, connect. Like there was not a lot of God awareness in us before God came and found us and
That's it.
started
That's
working
it.
on us, right? And
That's so
so
true.
so so some of that the one of the barriers is just lack of God awareness. And again, it doesn't mean that because they're not disciplable right now that they're not going to be. And we've got to work on how do we, through spiritual conversations and the story you just told is going to help us to understand these are ways that you can overcome these barriers, to not just focus on obviously we want to gather in the hot coals and work on the most disciplable people, but we're not going to dismiss all of the other people that are currently not disciplable. We've got to figure out a way to reach them.
Yeah. So good. And that's the thing. I think, I think that's the thing where, you know, as we discussed this and, you know, just as you said, the people that are good soil, right,
Mhm.
are disciplable right now because there's no hindrance. There's nothing, the seed grew in 3 different types of soil. And I think that's the thing where what's interesting is the parable of the sower. The sower in biblical times was somebody who actually went and would plant, because see, here's what's so funny. In the spring, this is the thing I think that we need to understand is that it's awareness. The sower actually was somebody that was often in biblical times was somebody that was employed to find a maybe a young farmer or somebody who was trying to buy a piece of land or whatever, to actually find a place that was ready to plant like right now. And what the
Yeah.
sower was actually doing was the sower was actually going out to find to come back with a report to say this soil here is, man, this soil is ready. It was good soil. It yielded 100% of the seed that I planted yielded a harvest.
Yeah.
Um, when he would come back and say, now this piece I planted over here, I planted some soil, but in the summertime it grew up, but in the summertime, thorns and thistles and stuff also grew up and it choked it out. And
Mhm.
so if you buy that piece of property, it's going to require a lot of work. This one over here, I thought it was good. It grew up fast, but it had a lot of rocks and stuff. And so it grew up, but it lacks the ability to root down in it. And so it just withered away. The reality is that what the sower was actually identifying was that there were barriers, just so you know, right? This soil
Yeah.
over here, this particular
Yeah.
plot of land, man, you could go in tomorrow and you could have a ready harvest. This is going to take a little while. You're going to have to cultivate it and pull some of the stones out. And this over here, there's a lot of weeds in this area. And so you're going to have to go in and, whatever. And I think this is the thing that as disciple makers in our own lives, I think there's places, Chris, I'm going to be honest. There's places in me that's all the types of soil. Not
Yeah.
every place in me is good soil. Like there's some places in
100%.
me that still thorns grow up and start, choking it out. And I think we've got to get to a spot where we realize not only in our own lives, but also in the lives of others, that there are people that, like you said, they're not thinking about Jesus right now. They're
Right.
still You know, there's other people that we just go ahead and plant the seed, and man, it's like, oh yes, look at this. And then we're like,
Right.
where did they go?
Yeah.
And right.
Yeah.
And so what we've
Absolutely.
got to do is we got to be able to get to that spot where we say, all right, so we planted the seed, it grew up some stones, it was stony, it was rocky soil, and we're going to have to, I'm going to have to spend some time with that person, and we're going to have to dig a little bit and see, and do you have that time? Do you have that relationship bandwidth? And then the beauty of the body of Christ is that you may actually have someone who is like a slow plotter. They may
Yeah.
be a super
Yeah.
introvert that you might be able to connect that person that says, look, hey, I'm willing to take on a project. I'm willing to I'm willing to walk this person through some of these tough places to help pull out some of those weeds and some of those things that inhibit the growth of the good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's which is the beauty of sort of the gifting of the body of Christ, and everybody's got a gift, and how does that work to the full completion of the mission? And
Yeah. I
instead of the church having a program,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah. I really believe that one of the primary responsibilities of a disciple that makes disciples is to identify some of those barriers and then use spiritual conversations. Stephen Hill makes a great point
I just
about
I was just reading that.
not trying to just not trying to fix the problem or cure the problem, but our job is to identify what are the barriers, and then what exactly the story that you told, bro, which is so good, which is you bring them, this is the kingdom value. So what should your response in light of compare how you feel and what you're thinking versus what the kingdom response is? What do you want to do about that? And let them deal with that conflict. And that's ultimately where disciplability is produced in them, is when they're willing to embrace that tension. So as disciple makers, our job is not to chase fruit, not to try to defend things or whatever, but
Right.
just help them see what those barriers are and let the Spirit of God. I have such confidence in the power of the truth of God and His Spirit working together that anybody that will just crack the door for Him, He
Mhm.
will show Himself to them, and he will
Yeah.
he will show them the better way. And it's our job to help them do that. It's not our job, as Stephen Hill says, it's not our job to fix the problem, right?
Chris,
It's not
yeah,
our job to fix the problem.
let me finish with this, and I just
Yeah, we got to
I'll give
go.
you this last word,
Yeah,
and you ended up as you see fit. But it's funny because and we share his books. We've shared he's written some amazing books about missiology, and I enjoy some of his stuff or whatever. But um it's funny, even people, even good people, even people that are and I'll this will be an open invitation for him to come on the podcast, but I'm just going to say the name, Michael Frost. I there was somebody that posted there was an article, and somebody had asked the question from, I think it was like the Gospel Coalition or something, that basically said, is it possible that, the church hurt thing is just people making an excuse for their lack of, wanting to be committed or whatever.
yeah,
And so I simply responded on his page and said, I made the comment and I said, what angle would a person be coming from to make this kind of statement? What is it? And my point was, what are they trying to discover? Like, are they coming from an angle that is there any legitimacy to it? What are they trying to discover? Or what are they, whatever?
yeah.
Because
So you're
here's the
trying to
deal.
understand the position. Yeah.
I'm trying to
Why would they?
understand where that person's coming from.
Sure.
So I read the article, and the person basically said, a lot of what we're talking about today. The person in the article basically said, I agree. I think that there are some abuses. I think that there are some people that probably been hurt by things. I think there probably are. It's just as there are in any kind of context.
Yeah.
But also, there's a group of people that's just using this today. So anyway, I just put quote and said what might they, just trying to discover it. And what's so funny is that Michael Frost came back like, oh yeah, you mean, and he starts quoting all of the bullet
Whoa.
points. Like
Whoa.
just, and I responded and I'm like, I literally said, I said, chill, bro. I said, do you always come at everybody with like he came out like guns blazing and like I'm gonna cut your throat because see, you're proving you're part of the problem. And I'm like, maybe, and maybe it might be you're proving that you're also myopic
Mm-hmm.
to you being part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe what you're proving is okay. It's okay. All right. You're coming at me like, oh, yeah, you're part of the problem because no, I'm just simply saying I'm trying to understand where people are coming from both angles. And even in Michael Frost's response, I think it's proof and evidence that sometimes we can also become so myopic at the problem that
Yeah.
we're not looking for solutions either. We're just looking to point out the problem.
Yes.
And and
Emotional.
Mike Frost, look, I love your books, I love your stuff and whatever, but by the same token, and if you want to come on and have the conversation and
Yeah, you've
like
had a
we
lot of
do,
engagement with him.
yeah, I invite you, like come on and let's talk about these kinds of things. Because here's the deal, Chris, at the end of the day, with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, their answer isn't ultimately going to be sometimes the system is rigged, sometimes refs miss it. Sometimes, yeah, refs miss it, right? Like sometimes refs miss it. Sometimes they make a bad call. I sit there sometimes this year and like, golly, is refereeing getting this terrible or what is the deal?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
but dude, look, bro, watch. At the end of the day, Andy Reid is going to sit down with his team and he's going to sit down with Patrick Mahomes and say, okay, look, all right, zip it. This is okay. We've made our case, we've voiced our frustration, but at the end of the day, we've got more games to win.
Yeah.
So, right,
Yeah.
Mr. Tony, you are off across the line. Wide receivers, we know where the ball's sitting. You know, Andy Reid is ultimately going to go back to those players and he's going to
Yeah.
say, all right, now, how are we going to win the game?
Right.
And I think that's the thing that we need to be able to eventually divorce ourselves from everything else and say, all right,
Exactly.
how do I help create a Jesus movement? How do I be the disciple who makes disciples? How do I remove barriers in me and barriers in the lives of others so that ultimately at the end of the day, we and as many people as we can take with us are going to go to heaven.
Yeah. So good. So good. It's amazing, bro. We weaved Tommy Cutlets, Patrick Mahomes, Patty Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, like Michael Frost, like bro. That's that should go down
That's
in the
yeah.
podcast Hall of Fame right
That's why
there.
people listen to this podcast in droves.
I love it. I love it. We do appreciate those that contributed today. Great engagement, interaction, conversation. We appreciate you being a part of the discussion. Hopefully this will stir something up in all of us, maybe thinking about those people around us that you might think are not disciplable. What are the barriers? And how can you take Jesus to them in a way that helps overcome those barriers and gets it moving? And personally, how can we identify places in us? Like you said, I can be all of those soils in my own life in different places and whatever. So great conversation. Appreciate everybody being with us, sticking with us today. And we look forward to coming back to you next Tuesday around 10 o'clock. We have a little bit of a schedule update here coming up, but we will be back next Tuesday, right? Around 10
Yep,
o'clock. We look
absolutely.
forward to that. Until then, go live mobilized. God bless everybody.